Interesting. And now jumping into maybe more of your approach to this simple yet complicated landscape that it is to have a brand or to run a brand. What is your personal approach? Is it where are we trying to get to? What's the goal? What are the variables that we need to understand in order to get there? What are the KPIs? And then what problems do we need to solve along the way? Like what if you could summarize and I'm guessing this is a very intuitive process for you, but if you could summarize essentially what's going on in your head at almost every step of the process, what would you say it would be?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we always have to remember that it's a business, right? We could talk about brands and community, but it's a business. It's a business that has to generate revenue, and it's a business that needs to cover operating expenses. And in an ideal world, a business that has profitability that could then invest in future opportunities for growing staff, for growing offices, for growing stores, and all of those things. I think I think an important part of how I approach business has always been looking at the world truly as a sales opportunity. So if you're a North American brand, um, to avoid having to go into every department store, and I love department stores, but to go into every department store and deal with all of the markdown cadences and all of that, because I need growth, right? I need to have 20%, 30% growth, whatever the growth is, 80% growth. If I only look at North America, I'll be pigeonholed. And if I only look at either of the channels of DTC or or department stores and wholesale, I'll be pigeonholed. So how do I approach the world? I mean, and I think that's been key and instrumental in how I've been since I've been leading brands is that we're not forced to make revenue growth decisions in North America because we plant seeds as early as we can, even in the infancy of a brand. And key, we start easily with English speaking countries. So, UK, Great Britain are really important places that are also very receptive to American brands. Australia may be super far away, but it's a great country that loves and has a very similar lifestyle, even though their seasons are in different parts because of the hemisphere. They love American brands. So first off, trying to look at the fact that you can grow slowly across many channels to get to that spot is key. I've always been very keen on the idea of regionality and localized sales. So for all of the businesses that I've managed or run, we've had agents that work with us in wholesale that are on the ground in those territories that speak the language of the boutiques and department stores that we're working with. So we have agents in Scandinavia, in Belgium, Luxembourg, in Germany, which is a key global market for us and for many brands. We have French speaking, Spanish speaking, many different nations so that we can really do customer service in the language and often in the time zone of these nations. So I'd say looking at the world as a holistic place to make an impact at the same time, not just saying I'm a New York brand, so I have to just focus on New York, or I'm a Mexican brand and I just have to work in Mexico. I actually work with the Latin American Fashion Summit. So I have a lot of exposure to emerging brands that are based in LATAM as a whole. And our conversations are always about it's great that you have your localized market there, but now we have to look at the world because you won't be able to grow at a certain pace if you're not looking at the world.
Right. And what do you think are some pros and cons of having this international approach to growth and expansion overall?
I mean, cons can be, I think geo pricing is the biggest dialogue that myself and my peers have. It's how do you retain price value across all different markets, knowing that importation and duties based on where a product is made and products are being shipped How do you deal with that is a big con. So like in the US, our pricing is a lower price point than it is in certain nations. So stabilizing a global price point, because online we could find anything in every country, is one of the biggest cons. If you're not working with with people who are speaking the other languages, language barriers are different times. Cultural needs, we're a full brand. Dresses are a very big category for us. Um, there are certain nations like Japan where a dress is a lot less important in their nation. So how do we deal with cultural use of clothing and what that represents for women in their life cycle and their day to day, whether it's work, leisure, travel, special occasion, because culturally we all approach those things differently. So that some of those are the cons, but they're not long-term cons. They're just problems to solve along the way. And a lot of technology has helped advance some of these things. Like we use Shopify as our platform for e-commerce, and there are great integrators into Shopify, like a company called Global E, and they help give a landed price so everyone can see the pricing in their currency. That was a game changer for us. It increased international e-commerce overnight because they didn't have to do calculations or guess how much custom duty or what currency translators were. So there are so many tools that even the cons often have solutions. You just have to
Right.
prioritize what you want to deal with from problem solving.
Course. So, I mean, having an international approach again, it's what you want to do long term, of course, because you want to get the brand out there as quickly as well, not as quickly as you can necessarily, but in the right places as soon as you can and start building those relationships as quickly as you can or as early as you can, I think is a better way to put it. But with more markets comes more complexity. And again, with more complexity, it narrows and goes back to what you were mentioning about focusing on having their financial health of a company and the right infrastructure established, because with that in place, you can handle complexity and those day-to-day problems, right? If pricings are very different in the country, but the country is very important for the brand, you can show flexibility in pricing, whether if it's simply by charging different prices or mainly maybe by developing different categories at different prices for those specific locations, right? But again, the flexibility that you need with the complexity that comes with international expansion is something that you will get if you make the right financial decisions early on.
And I would add on to that, the financial decisions include the types of hires that you make in your company, because it's it it is the most important investment of a company, is the quality of the people.
The glue that holds everything together, this chaotic
I
machine together.
I mean, so many cliches, but it is the truth. And if you buy into the idea and believe, which I've always believed it, so I didn't have to buy into it, but I sell it to my peers all the time. This idea that, invest in your people, because whatever goal or strategy you lay out for a founder or for a board is not going to happen if you do not have people in place. It doesn't matter what your dream, you could be revolutionary in your strategy. And if you do not have people to execute that, it
That's all. It will
goes
just be a
nowhere,
strategy.
goes
Yeah.
nowhere,
Yeah. Of
goes nowhere.
course.